What is up, guys? Welcome back. Happy Tuesday, Waiver Wire Week 8. Excited to be back with you guys on a regular live stream schedule. And hey, I apologize for that delay at the start there. My computer decided to just randomly restart on me, so I had to boot everything back up. But nonetheless, we are good to go. Harris, good evening, man. Hope you're doing well. Hope you guys, hope you've been good the last 2 weeks, really. It's been a while, and I'm happy to be just, again, back into the swing of things. We'll hang out for about a half an hour or so tonight. I'm going to open up the Waiver Wire Report right now on the fantasyfellowship.com. It's an interesting waiver wire week. I think the biggest thing about week 8 is the 6 teams that are on bye. I hate these 6-team bye weeks. I wish the NFL schedule would not do this to us. I think at the most 4 teams on a bye would be totally fine, but we got to work with what we got to work with. The Cardinals, the Lions, the Jags, the Raiders, the Rams, and the Seahawks all are on bye. So, in a 1 QB league, maybe there's not a quarterback that you're missing, but we are missing a lot of good pieces as far as flex players, receivers, running backs, and tight ends. So we'll kind of come back to my favorite ads of the week. I'm going to start the show off by just going over all the injuries to monitor at the quarterback position. Jaden Daniels with the hamstring. It didn't look good. The good news is the MRI came back clean, but we just saw Lamar Jackson go through a hamstring injury. We've seen a couple of hamstring injuries throughout the season for a few players. And the good news is they're saying it's not a long-term issue, but to me it is a short-term issue. So I'm expecting 1 to 2 games missed for the Commanders quarterback. We're going to see Marcus Mariota probably start on the night game coming up against the Chiefs. So plan for that. Maybe the Commanders get Debo back. Maybe they get Terry McLaurin back. Maybe they just get a little bit better on offense, even if they do lose Jaden Daniels. So we'll find out more about that tomorrow. But again, I'm anticipating Jaden Daniels to not play in week 8. Lamar Jackson hamstring. He hasn't been listed as a participant in practice today and yesterday, but I think he's on track to play. They had the bye week, of course, last weekend. They've kind of been projecting him to play week 8. So tomorrow we'll get our first full practice report of the week. I'm expecting to see limited there. Hopefully, fingers crossed for Lamar. Kyler Murray with that foot injury, he's likely to return in week 9. But I got to say, after I didn't get to watch any football really in week number 6. That was very, very frustrating. But in week 7, I really watched the Cardinals play the Packers. I watched that game in its entirety, and I thought Jacoby Brissett looked kind of good, and maybe provided a little bit of extra boost for that offense. So we'll see. They might not have to rush Kyler Murray back for week 9. Brock Purdy with the toe injury, they've been kind of saying that he should be ready for this week. We'll watch about his practice reports. And then JJ McCarthy, they already ruled him out. We're going to see Carson Wentz on Thursday night on the short week. There's a good chance we see JJ McCarthy play in week number 9. I don't know. I don't have good vibes about this game for Minnesota on Thursday night. It's a short week. They got to travel to LA. Might be a tough one for the Vikings. And then the other one was Bryce Young at the quarterback spot, high ankle. I'm expecting 1 to 2 games. Depends. If Dalton looks good this weekend, maybe that gives him a little bit more time before getting Bryce Young back out there. So super flex leagues, you're looking at Andy Dalton on the waiver wire this week. And good evening to Aiden. Hope you're doing well, my man. Running backs. This is kind of going how we talked about Bucky Irving when it first happened. He got the foot and the shoulder injury. Tampa Bay is banged up. They just lost Mike Evans for 6 to 8 games with that broken collarbone. I think with the bye week for the Bucs being week 9, I think there's a very good chance that we see Bucky Irving sit for one more game, unless they want to, kind of ease him back into it and lean on Rachaad White and have Bucky Irving kind of be the backup guy. But I'm expecting Bucky to not play in this one. Running back Aaron Jones, I did see that they activated him and he's got his practice window opened up. I'm still leaning towards him not playing on Thursday Night Football. Like, he's literally got 1 or 2 days of practicing before being put into a game situation. So to me, I think it makes more sense to get him practicing this week, get him back for week 9, but we'll find that out. Probably tomorrow we'll find out if Aaron Jones is on track to debut again on Thursday night. Tough one for Kendre Miller, who was looking good. Like, he was a good stash on our benches. He tore his ACL. He's done for the year. It's just not it's just no luck for Kendre Miller. It's always something. We're going to see the rookie running back, Devin Neal, who they took in the draft. We'll see him step into the RB2 duties. He's worth a look at on the waiver wire this week. And then I put Amari DiMercato here at the ankle. He could return for week 9, but I don't know if that matters anymore. It's Bam Knight and Michael Carter for the backfield. Going to the wide receivers here, you got Puka likely to return week 9. They've been saying that. That sounds like it's very likely he'll be back next week. The big one was last night, Nico Collins. I think it was early fourth quarter. He went down and hit his head on the ground, concussion. We'll see if he can get a quick turnaround here. But just as the Nico Collins owner in a few leagues, I'm expecting him not to play in week 8. So unfortunately, with all the bye weeks this week, it does suck. But plan for the worst with Nico Collins. Expect him not to play. If he plays, great, you'll play him. But if not, again, just plan for the worst. We'll see about Brian Thomas Jr. and his shoulder injury. The bye week came at a good time for the Jags. I think they're going to refocus on some things and some discipline things and get Hunter more involved, as well as BTJ back on track. We'll see about Garrett Wilson with his knee injury. He's questionable. I still listed Emeka Egbuka questionable with the hamstring because I think that's going to be a practice thing for him this week. But he's kind of all I got left. I expect him to play. Obviously, Mike Evans with the collarbone. If you need the roster space, you can cut him. Like, he might be back mid-December, kind of like a Joe Burrow thing. But it won't be until at least the fantasy playoffs are underway. So if you need to make a move to dump Mike Evans, I think it's fine. Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin, I think there's a good chance both these guys play in this week, and they kind of need these guys, especially if Jaden Daniels is out. So we'll watch their reports tomorrow. Jacoby Myers, knee and toe, they're saying that he could return in week 9. I still think he's a very good trade candidate for a team like the Steelers or someone needing a wide receiver too. We'll see about Ricky Pearsall, Chris Godwin, both questionable. Calvin Ridley, questionable. Josh Downs, I expect to play in week number 8 here. Jaden Reed, the collarbone. I think we're going to see his practice report start to trickle in maybe next week, maybe not this week, next week. We'll start to see him maybe in November. We can think about Jaden Reed coming back to the Packers. You have Brandon Ayuk, who I'm expecting to see on the practice report soon. We didn't get Christian Kirk. We'll watch his reports tomorrow. Darius Slayton. I actually like Darius Slayton as a sneaky ad because he's a guy that's probably not going to get a lot of waiver wire bids, but I do expect him to operate as the leading receiver in terms of snaps and routes and that kind of thing. They've been kind of running Lil Jordan Humphrey out there as that player, and I think Slayton takes that spot when he gets back on the field. You can add Christian Watson if you want a project on your bench. Calvin Austin should be maybe on track to play Sunday Night Football. And then Josh Palmer, Dontavian Wicks, guys that we're not really excited about, but we'll watch their reports. So a lot of receivers being banged up right now. At tight end, Brock Bowers' knee could return week 9. I'm expecting him to return week 9. Hopefully we get some fantasy value out of Bowers at least at some point this season. David Njoku, will watch his reports for tomorrow. He's a true 50-50 call. I think Dalton Kincaid will be fine. He got the bye week last week. He should be on track to play in week 8. And then Darren Waller, I have a couple leagues where I have Darren Waller, and I'm probably going to, especially just with the buys this week, I might have to make a move, and I might have to cut Darren Waller, especially if I have another tight end that I like on my team, just to make, other position moves if I have to. And then Cole Kmet. If Cole Kmet does not play this weekend, maybe Colston Loveland can be a tight end for you. I'm going to come back to your questions here in just a little bit. I'm just going to cover the quick hitters on my waiver wire column here. If you need a quarterback this week, I think Jackson Dart is probably picked up in 1 QB leagues by now, but he does present a pretty fun ceiling and a nice rushing floor for you. I think Aaron Rodgers could be good against his old team, the Packers, on Sunday Night Football. It's in Green Bay, and he's been having a couple games where he throws multiple touchdowns. Michael Penix, it wasn't all clicking the other night on Sunday Night Football, but that was a much better opponent at San Francisco. I think they take care of business against the Dolphins at home. And then Joe Flacco at home against the Jets are the quarterbacks that I like. You guys can check out those Superflex stashes there if you need some. Not a great running back week, but Woody Marks, if he was cut, over their bye week last week, like he took over the backfield last night. So I still like Woody Marks. I like Tyrone Tracy. He looked pretty good on his limited touches, and he's going to take a little bit of work off Cam Scattaboo, but Tracy, still a good player. He's just not a starter at this moment. Tajay Spears, if he's out there, I like him. Bam Knight's got 1 or 2 more starts left in him before Trey Benson comes back. I think Isaiah Davis is a good stash. And then the 2 guys that should be out there in most leagues are Brashard Smith and Kyle Monangai. Smith looks good as a receiver. He got a lot of rushing volume in this blowout on Sunday. And Kareem Hunt, he was dinged up a little bit. That allowed Rashard Smith to get some touches, some carries. Maybe there's more there for Smith in the future. And then Monungai, same thing. It took him a little bit while to get going. And just with Ben Johnson and his past with the Lions, there's room for two backs here. And it looks like Monungai could be that kind of poor man's David Montgomery volume eater. And Monungai played third down snaps, quite a bit of third down work, 2-minute drill stuff. So he's interesting. You can check out the list of deeper stashes on the website if you wish. Receivers, not a big receiver week, but I think Xavier Legette's worth looking at. I think Alec Pierce, he's kind of like Darius Slayton, where he's going to make a few big plays, hopefully get you 8 to 12 points. And if he catches that big touchdown, that's what's going to make your week. And then I think it's Tez Johnson, man, just with the Mike Evans injury. Chris Godwin's already pretty much done. It's Igbuka and then Tez Johnson. I think Johnson looks pretty fun. He's a flex play at the worst right now. And I just think he's going to continue to earn Baker Mayfield's trust. So I like Tez probably the most on the waiver wire for receivers this week. You can look at Mooney, you can look at Parker Washington if you need some deeper players, and then just like some IR stashes, whether it's Jaden Reed, Brandon Ayuk, maybe Jalen Coker, maybe Christian Watson, something like that. And then the tight end spot. The number one pickup is going to be Rondé Gadsden. And just I was looking at the numbers, man. If I was doing live shows last week, I probably would have had you guys pick up Gadsden last week because his game was pretty good in week 6. But week 7, everything flowed his way. I think he's a top 10 tight end for this week, especially with the bye weeks. And then if he comes through again for us on Thursday Night Football, like I might be there with him being a top 10 tight end the rest of the way. So very excited about Gadsden. He would be the number 1 tight end option. He might even be the number 1 waiver wire pickup of the week. And then Dalton Schultz, man, we have the Nico Collins concussion that we're watching. Schultz had 7 catches, I think, on 9 targets last night for almost 100 yards. Schultz can be your volume eater at tight end. And then Theo Johnson continues to look pretty good for Jackson Dart. And Dart's, he's pretty comfortable throwing to those tight ends. So I do like Theo Johnson, Gadsden, Dalton Schultz. You guys can check out Loveland if Komet's missing time. And then if you need a defense this week, the Patriots, they get the Cleveland Browns. The Colts would be the primary target. They get Tennessee at home. The Falcons get the Dolphins at home. And then Tampa Bay travels to New Orleans. Don't love that one, but I think Tampa Bay does win that game. But Falcons, Colts, and Patriots. And then I will say, if the Chiefs are out there, Chiefs get the Commanders, maybe without Jane Daniels. Maybe that's a good spot there. But there's your rundown on the waiver wire for week 8. I'll leave that up and we'll get to some questions here. Rondé or Gadsden, or Rondé or Hawkinson. I don't think it's close, man. I did think TJ Hawkinson has looked better the last couple games. But I think you got to go with the hot hand here on Thursday Night Football. You're obviously playing one tight end in this game. I think the momentum is with Gadsden right now. And Gadsden's, his usage last Sunday was pretty remarkable. He was kind of their number 3 target. He ran more snaps and more routes than Keenan Allen even. Obviously Keenan Allen and Ladd McConkey and Quentin Johnson are still going to be involved, but I do think Gadsden, just with his big play nature, he just needs to make 1 or 2 plays to be a serviceable tight end start for us this week. So I'm comfortably starting a Rondé Gadsden over TJ Hawkinson. I will be working on my weekly rankings tomorrow, but this usage for Gadsden is pretty hot. We had a running back problem this week. I'm starting Isaiah Davis this week, but can pick up Neal, Pirine, and Smith. I think the easy answer here is to go after Rashard Smith. Devin Neal, I think he's worth stashing, but he's not worth starting. Pirine did start to get some carries from Chase Brown, which I thought was nice. Here's that game where this was a season high usage for Pirine. He ended up with 7 carries, didn't get any catches or targets, which was a little concerning, but I think Pirine's worth adding to your bench. I think Neal's worth adding to your bench. I think at this point though, I'm going to probably shoot for that 6 to 10 points from Rashard Smith and hope that he's catching passes. Maybe he gets 5 to 8 carries. Maybe he gets a big play for a touchdown. I think you go after Rashard Smith. Aaron Rodgers or Michael? Michael. Who's Michael? Michael Penix. I'm going to go Aaron Rodgers here. I think I was looking at something earlier today, and the Dolphins are like a heavy run funnel where teams just want to run the ball against them and play clock management. Whereas I think Rodgers gets his old team. We're going to probably see the best out of Aaron Rodgers. Maybe not the 4 touchdown games that we've seen, but he's going to give it his all. So I'm going to go Rodgers here. Can you add – you can add Dylan Sampson. I think I'm fine with that. His usage is still not super exciting because we kind of need a Jerome Ford injury to at least get interested in Sampson. The big injury to Judkins would maybe launch Sampson to like running back 2 status. But as long as Ford's out there, these 2 guys, like we want one of these guys to split this role, and they're splitting it down the middle right now. So I'm still sticking with Brashard Smith in that question, Aiden. The fake shoulder injury. So I believe it's the same shoulder that BTJ hurt in preseason earlier this year. He had been kind of nursing some things, it looked like, with practice reports throughout the year. But I still am believing in the Jags passing offense. This one's pretty easy for me, but when Dart or Aaron Rodgers, the rushing volume, man, you're going to take that every time. Dart can outscore Aaron Rodgers with just his legs, pretty much, if he ran for 2 touchdowns and 60 yards or something like that. So we're going to go with Jackson Dart there. Judy, Jennings, or Harvey. Judy does not look really fun right now. I think just the offense here. I mean, they threw the ball 18 times in this win. Obviously, if they're losing, they're going to throw the ball more. But even then, Gabriel's been kind of spreading the ball out. I don't know if we're ever going to feel good starting Jerry Jeudy in our team. Jennings, I think the numbers in his first game back look pretty promising, where Jennings might be entering our circle of trust as early as this week. I mean, 7 targets, only 4 catches, 7 points, but that's a good start for him to build from there and maybe be Brock Purdy's number 1 target going forward. So I want to hold on to Jennings, and I want to hold on to Harvey because he continues to look good on limited touches. We just need Tyler Beatty to get out of the way. So I'm such an idiot, Aiden. What was it? Sunday morning, I woke up and I'm in a super flex league and I got JJ McCarthy on my bench. And I'm like, I might need JJ. I kind of needed JJ McCarthy for week 8 because I have Trevor Lawrence on bye. And I'm like, I got to add Carson Wentz. And I'm like, okay, do I cut Brashard Smith or do I cut Kendre Miller? At the time, I'm like, yeah, Kendre Miller's locked into that number 2 role. He's got the next man up mentality. So I cut Brashard Smith. And then, of course, Kendre Miller gets hurt for the year. And now I have to go and bid on Brashard Smith. So I'm in the same boat as you, assuming this is like $100 budget. And if I want to make sure I get him, one, there's a couple things. His rest of season value looks really exciting. Just this receiving workload. He finally gets double-digit carries. I know it's a blowout, but Chiefs might be blowing out a lot of teams, guys, the rest of the way. The Chiefs offense might be the real thing. So I think there's opportunity for Brashard Smith to maybe be a guy that gets 5 to 8 carries per game. I think Kareem Hunt we might be done with the Kareem Hunt stuff. He still might be the goal line back, but if you're going to be giving, 3-4 catches per game to Brashard Smith, and then if he starts tacking on, 5 to 8 carries per game, then we're looking at like a 7 to 10 point PPR play. And then if anything does happen to Pacheco or Hunt gets injured, then we got a must-start player in this Chiefs offense. So I think because you need him to start this week and you want him on your team for the rest of the season, I'm thinking, I don't know, 15%, maybe 20%. Like if I had my full $100 back and I'm like, yeah, I need him to start this week, I might go up to 20%, but I think somewhere in that 12 to 15% is probably right. No more than a $15 bid for me probably would be the sweet spot. So say you have $80 left. I'm probably willing to go like $12, $13, something like that. Yeah, you have the Breece trade stuff, and if he doesn't get traded, like Breece Hall has, gotten injured and left games and came back a couple times this season, so it might just be a matter of time. And I just think with the nature of how the season's going, like, they're going to have to see what Isaiah Davis can do at some point. So I still think he's a guy that you want on your roster. But Brashard Smith is an exciting player, and I'm I've got like 50, I think I got like $53 left in the league where I cut him the other day. I'm probably going to go something like $13 on Rashard Smith, which would be, 20% of my budget left, but across the whole budget, something like that I think makes sense. Let me see what else we got here, if I have any more news for you guys. Otherwise, I will get out of here early for tonight. We will be going live tomorrow night. We're back on our normal schedule, guys. So if you guys do you want to hang out tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central Time, same thing. We'll go over the practice reports. We'll get you guys ready with any start-sit questions. And then, if you guys are members of the fellowship.com, I have rest of season rankings up there. The post-game notes are up there. Waiver wires up there. Tomorrow I'll be getting my weekly rankings going. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, a lot of injuries this past week that have really been annoying for the big bye week this week. So we'll see if Jacoby Myers gets traded. I think he would look really nice as a Steeler, but that's just a hunch. This was interesting. The Falcons releasing Ray McLeod. Not sure if he lands somewhere. I talked about Aaron Jones before. They designated him to return. I don't think he plays on Thursday Night Football. And if he does, I would rather play Rashard Smith, over Aaron Jones. I'm not really ready to whip Aaron Jones out on a 1 or 2 days of practice from being back. I hope that they actually let him just practice this week and maybe get ready for week number 9. So we'll see. Tyrod Taylor, man, we'll see what happens. I think the Jets are going to go back to Justin Fields at some point. They're going to give Tyrod Taylor a couple games and then realize, maybe it's not the quarterbacks. Maybe our team is just garbage, and we got to see what Justin Fields can do again. We also need to see Garrett Wilson healthy for this team. So we'll figure it out. But yeah, good game for Woody Marks last night. Only 10 carries for 15 yards, but he gets the 3 catches in the 20-yard touch, the 20 yards and the touchdown. His usage looked really, really strong. 48 snaps to Nick Chubb's 19. Now, a lot of this was because they were trailing by multiple scores most of this game. But I think there's a changing of the guard here. And this might just kind of be the new rotation going forward, where Woody Marks is getting pretty much, 60-70% of this backfield. He's getting the receiving work, and we might have a low-end RB2 on our hands. So good news there. And then if you are nervous about Nico Collins missing this week, I think Dalton Schultz gets like the biggest bump because he becomes like a pretty much a must-start tight end. Hutchinson's going to run the majority of snaps and routes. Jaden Higgins will get some opportunity as well. But Jalen Noel was the best player that stepped up at receiver last night. 7 targets, 4 catches, made some nice big plays down the field. He might be the one that intrigues me the most. We also have to watch Christian Kirk. So a lot of moving pieces here on the Texans. We'll find out more tomorrow with that first practice report. And what do you think I could get for Devonta Smith and Chase Brown? Right now, selling Devonta Smith, man, we're selling pretty high on Devonta Smith. So you might be able to cash in pretty nicely here. And I do think the outlook for Chase Brown is definitely pointed up with Joe Flacco. The receiving game looks good for him, and just better lanes to run the ball as they're able to have a threat to throw the ball. So it does kind of work both ways. Now, Devonta Smith, wide receiver 10 on the year right now. So you're technically trading a low-end wide receiver 1. And then you do have Chase Brown down here. Still not big numbers from Chase Brown. He's down here at RB31. But again, I think, people are like, okay, yeah, fine. I'll start Chase Brown as my wide receiver or my running back 2. So you're trading. We're going to call Devonta Smith a wide receiver 2 and a low-end RB2 and Chase Brown. You might be able to go knocking on the door for, you could shoot for the stars. You're not going to get CMC, Taylor, Bijan, Gibbs, but anybody else is kind of fair game. You can talk to the James Cook owner. You could talk to the Josh Jacobs owner, maybe Javonte Williams, maybe Cam Scatteraboo. Maybe you could try Saquon Barkley. You could try Quinshon Judkins. I think, outside of these top 4 running backs, you can kind of shoot for the moon with any of those guys. And then if you're trying to get a receiver here, I'm not quite sure what to shoot for. I mean, again, Devonta Smith's already ranked pretty high. I mean, you could try for. You're not going to get JSN, Chase, Amon-Ra, Puka. You might be able to get Pickens. You might be able to get Ibuka, Keenan Allen, Devontae, Olave. I think you can pretty much shoot for anybody that's like not a top 4 or 5 running back or receiver. So have fun, man. Look around and see which team can benefit the most from a running back like Chase Brown being their RB2, and then Devonta Smith slots in as their number 2, number 3 receiver. Something like that could work. What would I do in a 2 for 2? I mean, the preferred way would be to get the best player in the deal in a 2 for 1. In a 2 for 2, I don't really know. Like, is Devonta, like, do you have a lot of receivers? There's a lot of context that's probably needed for me to get this one incorrectly. Like, I might be willing to swap out Devonta Smith and go down a receiver tier, whether that's, I don't know, Lad McConkey, Zay Flowers. I might be willing to buy low on a receiver and get an upgrade at running back, whether that's, I don't know, Scadaboo, whether that's Swift, Kieran. If you're doing a 2 for 2, I would probably try to upgrade running back and then buy low on one of those receivers. That just hasn't really quite hit yet. Trey Tucker, rest of season. I mean, he's kind of like a Darius Slayton type where he's going to run a lot of routes, get a lot of snaps. He's going to get, 4, 5, 6 targets for an average of most games. And he's just kind of like a big play guy that, he only needs that one play to make your day. And on the season, I mean, he's wide receiver 16. He had that huge game a while back. But for the most part, he's going to be inconsistent. 8, 12, 11, though. Like, if he can kind of keep this up and he's getting these 4 or 5 catches per game, that's what's going to be really sticky. Now, Brock Bowers coming back, Jacoby Myers coming back. I think the arrow's pointing back down for Trey Tucker. So he's just a bench piece for me. He's not a guy that I see being in my starting lineup, especially week 9 when both those guys are back. So hopefully that helps. Harris, you can send me some stuff later if you have more questions on who to target. But I'm going to get out of here for the evening. We had a good half an hour waiver wire week 8. Not the juiciest waiver wire, but there are a lot of potential needs to be filled with these bye weeks going on. So hopefully you guys get what you need. Again, tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central Time, we'll go live and we'll cover the news from the day and any questions that you guys have for me. So enjoy the rest of your Tuesday night. We will see you tomorrow evening. Peace. Thank you.